Hello and welcome to Getting to Know You. I'm Robert Jaquay, your host. Getting to Know You is a show that introduces you to people in and around Colonie, people you may have heard about or met briefly, and people you'd like to know better. As I mentioned in a previous program, in a town the size of Colonie, we have two separate school districts. They are geographically labeled North and South. And on today's show, we're going to be chatting with Randy Ehrenberg, who is the superintendent of the North Colonie Central School District. Let's go meet her and start our conversation. Randy, welcome. I'm so glad you agreed to be on our show today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Before we start in our discussion about the school district, I'd like to hear about your background, how you came to Colonie.
I came in a very long route. I've been in public education for the last 35 years and worked in the schools of Evanston, Illinois, Amherst, Massachusetts, and for the 27 years right before coming here in Ithaca, New York. So I've been blessed in having worked in wonderful places, all education communities, and North Colonie had great appeal to me because of the universities in the area, the emphasis on education, the valuing of education, and the support for the schools that I came to see was in existence here.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you with us. It's been about 5 years now, hasn't it?
This is the beginning of the 6th year, actually.
Wow.
So I'm a veteran.
You're a veteran now, no longer a newcomer.
Not a newbie. When I first got to North Colonie, I was told that it took about 15 years not to be the new superintendent, but I don't feel new anymore.
Well, you've done very well, believe me. Randy, when we were preparing for the show today, you showed me the annual evaluation report that you prepare every year for the district. And when I was giving it a review, there was a passage that really jumped out at me, and I think it talks about the overall philosophy that you support and maintain in the school district. So I'm just going to read that, and then we'll chat a bit. And you agree with the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development on this. And it states that a comprehensive approach to learning recognizes that successful young people are knowledgeable, emotionally and physically healthy, motivated, civically inspired, engaged in the arts, prepared for work and economic self-sufficiency, and ready for the world beyond their own borders.
Yes, that passage certainly resonated with me when I read it and took the liberty of putting it at the beginning of our annual evaluation last year. I believe very much in educating the whole child, and that's been my definition of my life work in education for the last 3.5 decades. I believe that you cannot just emphasize the core subjects. You can't just teach for the test. We have to reach each child, and each child is reachable through different avenues. And it's very, very deeply our commitment to prepare the next generation, that generation that's going to take care of us when we are no longer doing what we're doing. So I believe very strongly in that statement, and I thought they said it a lot better than I could have.
Well, it's a wonderful ideal, but it's a big challenge. I mean, you've got a lot of students. How large is the school district in terms of number of schools?
We have 8 school buildings, 6 elementary schools, 1 junior high school, and a 9 through 12 comprehensive high school. So we have 8 buildings housing approximately 5,650 students.
Okay, that's quite a student body.
It is.
Continuing on in the report, you talk about how to achieve this kind of ideal or goal, and it appears though you have a lot of intensive work with the administrators and the teachers working for initiatives and preparing along this path.
I don't think that anything happens by chance in life, and I'm quite a planner, and I think I've come to a school district that suits me to a T in that the district is based on comprehensive long-term planning, worrying about short-term goals as well as long-term goals. I'm very, very fortunate to have come to a district that has been fiscally and educationally managed very soundly for its 55 years of existence. And my goal has been to keep us going in the right direction, keep us moving forward, not standing still, keep us moving forward in a very difficult time in the world of education right now. Funds are shrinking and our goals are getting wider and wider. The biggest challenge that I have faced as a superintendent in this district is coming into a district that's such a wonderfully high-performing district, great results, and pretty low tax rate relative to our counterparts. So that's been the challenge, that delicate balancing act of how to keep the tax rate on an even keel and keep going higher and higher and having more of our students walk across the stage with Regents diplomas.
Yes, and walking across the stage with Regents, a pretty impressive statistic.
I had to get that in there.
Yes, of course you did.
Yeah. We had 97% of our students walk across the stage last year with Regents diplomas, which is wonderful. Certainly the highest in the area, quite high for New York State as a whole. And we've been going over the last 15 years higher and higher. We keep raising the bar for ourselves, and that's a lot of what North Colony is about, is that we are all quite introspective about our own programs and raising the bar for students as we go. One of the things we're all very proud of is that 72% of our students with disabilities also walked across the stage with Regents diplomas, and that is as wonderful accomplishment as any, and very, very high for New York State.
It sure is, absolutely. Speaking of the students and engaging with the students, I mean, it's a huge student body. You know, teachers have to teach the courses, but how do teachers and students interact, let's say outside of the classroom or in the whole picture, the whole global picture of the school system?
How do they interact with the superintendent?
Yeah, the students, yeah, how the student
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, within the first few weeks of my being here, I met a Shaker High School student working behind the counter at Napoli Bakery, and my husband had a big laugh at the fact that all the student wanted to talk to me about as the new superintendent was snow days, and how many snow days, and why didn't we have more snow days, and would I be different coming from Ithaca, because they were making the assumption that that was Siberia. So it became a personal goal to have students know a little bit more about what the superintendent does than just snow days, which actually is a very small part of the job, as I'm sure you can guess. So I started having lunch with groups of students at the junior high and the high school. I've asked the principals of those buildings to get together groups of students that would meet with me, and any question was a fair question, but I actually did some interviewing of the students and asked them what kinds of things were going well in the school and the school district from their perspective, what kinds of recommendations they might have for me as a superintendent. I always couched my comments and my time with them by saying that just because they make a recommendation, that didn't mean that tomorrow would happen, so they needed to have patience and know that I would be thinking about these things. I then started also meeting with the seniors of our elementary schools, and I, for the last few years, have these lunches with sixth graders groups that the principals put together for me. So that's been a very, very rich part of my experience here. I like to visit the schools. I like to be in classrooms. This morning I was over at Forts Ferry and visited in classrooms K through 6 and also some of the special areas, and just get to sit in there and participate, and I'm always very, very warmly welcomed. The first year I was here, I underestimated the enthusiasm of teachers having a superintendent in the classroom, and I offered to go into classrooms and read at the elementary school just to be in there and help out a little bit, and thinking maybe 4 or 5 teachers would volunteer, and I had 54 teachers ask me to come in and read. The next year I volunteered to help at writing workshops in the classrooms because I'm a former English teacher. Okay. And English teachers never die. So, and I keep looking for new ways to immerse myself in classrooms in real ways, and sometimes in ways that really may actually help the teachers and not give them more homework.
So you're definitely not a stranger.
I hope not. I hope not. The other thing that when you say stranger, every teacher in the district, and I don't know how common this is in all places, but every teacher who's hired in North Colony has a final interview with the superintendent.
Okay.
And if the superintendent sees the finalists for each position, and that takes a lot of time, but if we say that our major job is learning and teaching, and that's our mission, it's very important who we put in the front of students. And there have been occasions where I have turned back the finalist candidates and have said, sorry folks, we have to go back to the drawing board. Most often that isn't the case because we have a wonderful administrative team that works very hard to get us the best candidates possible, but there have been occasions when that has happened.
How about relating with parents? I mean, how does that happen at your level or?
Well, when I first came to North Colony, I was trying to find the center of the town. Maybe I found it today.
Yes, you have. We actually are geographically the center.
I thought you wanted to say that. But I came in the summer, and I was really quite unknown to the area. People didn't know me, and I was looking for ways to connect with people. Once the school year started, I had to stop the search for that center of the town. But I go to many, many student events. I go to concerts, I go to plays, I go to athletic events. I go to many PTA meetings. I have a superintendent's parent advisory council. People come to me. And in the last few years, I've invited parents to join the budget steering committee. So each school now sends 2 parent representatives to watch the board and the superintendent deliberate on budgets and spend about 6 to 8 nights with us through that process. So I continue to search for ways to have real and deep and meaningful conversations with parents. I am so blessed in this school district with a parent community that supports the schools to a degree that if this could be cloned or marketed, we could sell it. And so that's just a delight. And I want to respect that, value it, take it to the next level, and let parents always know that my door is open, my email, my phone is always open to parents.
And that's encouraging to hear. I mean, I think of it in terms of what I think I know about other places, and there's apathy. I mean, they're involved with their particular child to whatever degree, but don't go to PTA meetings or don't go to other events where they're invited in.
Right.
So it's good to hear that people are willing to do that.
And my husband's been a wonderful sport. On a given weekend, he'll turn to me and say, "So what are we doing tonight? Is it a 5th grade dance?" Or as long as he has the blue blazer and the tan pants, he's got the look and he's ready to go. But he loves children, as do I. And now that our boys are all grown up, this is a wonderful way to continue our involvement with young people.
When I was reading your opening day speech, I think you do that to the student body, or
No, that's to the faculty.
to the faculty. Okay.
Yeah.
You talked about your job, or our jobs, you said, because you're talking collectively, as being a job to inspire.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And you had read a particular book that had given you some of that inspiration and wanted to carry that forward.
Yes. I had sat through in my lifetime a lot of uninspiring opening day speeches. So sometimes in life you learn things from wonderful examples, and sometimes you learn things from not so wonderful examples. And my goal each year on opening day is to light the fire anew. And I always talk to the staff at the end of the year about going off and being refreshed and coming back for the year ahead. And then it's my goal to set the direction for the year ahead, to touch on some major themes that are important, but most importantly, to let them know that I'm there to support them in their mission to make a difference in the lives of each and every child in front of us. And in North Colony, our excitement about reaching every child predates the No Child Left Behind legislation. We are committed here to something that we call systemic advocacy. And what that is that every child in the system has an advocate. Every child has somebody who's going to notice them, find them, and be strong in their lives, be consistent in their lives, and push them. And I'm very much of the old school that it's really okay to push students, and as parents and as educators, to push students to be all that they can be.
And certainly with the results you're getting, it's a good formula.
It's the results that you see. It's also a real strong goal of mine and our administrative team that we're creating lifelong learners who are going to go out and want to come to this library and take out stacks of books and keep reading and keep writing and keep thinking, and thinking deeply and critically, and not just show the ability to answer multiple choice tests. So that's all part of our larger mission.
That's great. We talked about a couple of things, a variety of things, but the population is changing. The who's going to the schools right now? And you talked about a globalization initiative. You want to talk more about that?
Absolutely. It's a pet baby of mine. When I came here 5 years ago, I saw a population that, as you said, was beginning to change. And there were some students and some profiles of students and families coming to North Colonie from different cultures that North Colonie, Latham area might not have seen before. And so I started analyzing this and looking at it and decided that it was important to try to help teachers to deal successfully with those children who are now in front of them. Might have looked different 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and it will continue to change. It's changing nationally, it's changing in the state. The majority is now becoming a minority population.
Right.
And so I wanted to prepare our teachers for working comfortably with these families, with families who brought different cultures, different cultural beliefs, different religions, different orientations to the classroom, and make people comfortable with that. Again, so that every child would have a real place in our schools. And that's something that we've carried on as an initiative for the last 5 years, each year in a little bit different form. The first year we had a workshop day for teachers. The second year we formed a study group and invited community members and parents to join us and work alongside the educators on these projects. Last year we worked with a group out of Albany called TRACK, and that's tackling racism in our classrooms. And all of the isms came out in our discussions. And yesterday was a wonderful kickoff of one of the subgroups of our work, and that was a group that got together to discuss a book called Other People's Children by Lisa Del Pitt. And Lisa Del Pitt is now at a university in Florida, and she's an author who talks to people about what it's like being not in the mainstream culture and sitting in front of teachers in classrooms and students who are somewhat all the same when you're different. So all of this work is to show that these are wonderful opportunities for our students. They're wonderful opportunities for our teachers, and they're challenging, but really they're opportunities for us all to learn and grow together. And yesterday in this study circle that I was co-facilitating with a number of other teachers and one of our principals, we had over 40 teachers working with us, and we'll continue that work through the December, hopefully culminating with a video conference or a real visit by the author of the book.
That'd be terrific.
We're working on it.
Good librarian here. I've displayed the book here, and I was
You're
doing
very
some looking at the background of it, and people say this is a very influential book in terms of how they approach
Yes.
teaching in this particular aspect. So,
And you know how all things sometimes come together in life? Yesterday I was up in Saratoga for a few hours at a piece of a superintendent's conference. I didn't have time to spend the whole day there, and a speaker named Eric Cooper got up, and very inspirational African-American educator and researcher, and the third sentence out of his mouth was Lisa Del Pitt's book. So he gave me wonderful messages to take back to the staff that same afternoon, and the messages that he put forth that I was able to share with staff, and this goes in the realm of inspiring, had to do with hope and having each child in school each year feel like there's hope, and that there are teachers who believe in them, who aren't telling them that they can't make it, but these messages of hope are so critically important for us to convey to children. So it was serendipitous that I heard him yesterday. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Many times when we talk about the school districts, we talk about the budget. You know, that becomes the big issue because it affects property taxes and our taxes in general. So how do you approach the budget process in North Colonie?
We approach the problem by starting very early in our discussions. We actually are beginning budget discussions now internally for next May's budget vote. So it's a long process where administrators come in and they meet with me and my key assistant superintendents for curriculum and for business, and we start analyzing the needs of the school district for the year ahead and go through this in a very meticulous and tedious fashion. You mentioned the annual evaluation before, and that plays a key role for us because the annual evaluation document that I prepare with the assistance of our administrative team, that I prepare each fall, is an analysis of every program in the North Colonie district, from food service to English to art to music, And it's an analysis of what it costs to run each program, what it costs per pupil, and then there's a lot of documentation by looking at real data of how are we doing in each area, how are we doing in English, how are we doing in math, we're a results-oriented kind of approach to it all. So a lot of what we see that we need is anticipated in this document that the Board of Education then spends 4 nights reviewing in December with us, section by section. And then we spend probably 6 to 8 nights in February, March, and April doing a line-by-line budget analysis. But quite often, if we do it right, the budget requests, the budget things that we're looking at for the year ahead are all anticipated in this annual evaluation. And that's been a part of North Colonie's reporting system for the last 25, let's say, years. So it's pretty easy to track how we're doing with all of these things. So the budget process is a long and tedious process. There's always more hopes and dreams than you want. And the big enemy for me of the budget process are unfunded mandates.
Yes.
When you have to spend money for things that other people tell you you need, these unfunded mandates may come from the state or the federal level, that deflect your intentions and where you want to go with budgetary ideas or the little bit of money that you're putting aside for something, and then we get stretched in too many different directions. So, you know, my sense is that if you're a school district that's systematic and analytical, as I believe we are, and knows where we want to go, sometimes it would just be nice for people to say, hey, fly with it and take your limited resources and dream your dreams, because we know you're heading in a good place.
And you mentioned also when we were discussing that you don't do separate proposals, say for buses, everything becomes a...
Yes, it's very hard for us to get that message out to our community, so I so appreciate the opportunity here to mention it. When we go out to the taxpayers, we go out with one thing for the people to vote on, and that's the expenditure budget and an estimated tax rate. And in all of the budget, what you see are any buses that we need, any maintenance projects, rather than keep going out every year, we need another $1 million for this work, another $1 million. We find it all within that budget and go out. So when people vote in some other districts, some of our closest neighbors,
right,
they're going out and voting on different things. In North Colonie, it's basically one number, and so sometimes our number might sound higher than other places, but it's because we have made a strong commitment to the public that we're going to only go to you one time. And the board feels very strongly about that. Politically, we might not do a good enough job explaining that, and so are always having to answer questions. Well, why was this one at 4.8 when you're at 5.9?
Right.
And so
Right.
it becomes
Comparisons.
Yes, comparisons.
Yeah.
And I keep trying to say, well, because with us, it's all in one. So.
Great. We talked about capital planning. I think you said there was a large capital plan that has finished, or?
Yes,
yes.
Yes, it was finished last year. We had a $32.5 million project where we added on to each of our buildings and did necessary renovations on each of our buildings. This work began the week that I got to North Colonie, and immediately at my very first meeting on the topic, we were $1 million in the hole because of unexpected problems with the junior high school roof. So for the whole project, we carried this albatross on our backs of, oh my goodness, how are we going to get the job done? So it was with great relief that the project finished. But with that said, it's like our own homes. You finish the project and then you look around and there's still $8 million worth of other things that we want to do. And so what we're trying to do now is find a way, about $1 million a year within our budget, to keep chipping away at these it's called a building condition survey.
Okay.
And we have this whole list of things. Even though we just finished a project, we have a whole list of things that constantly need to be done. It really is just like your house. My house.
Probably my house too. You already mentioned your challenge. What is the most exciting aspect of your job?
every piece of it is really a joy. I taught for 17 years before I started being an administrator, and then I was an administrator at every level. I was a junior high school assistant principal, a high school principal, an elementary principal, and I did all the different jobs in central office. But my next goal became to be a superintendent of schools. But it wasn't going to be a superintendent of any schools, because I was really quite happy with my work life in the Ithaca City School District. So it had to be a district that had a philosophy that was parallel to mine, had a sound educational system that we could build on and make even better. And so each day is just a joy. I love being in the classrooms of the new teachers that we hire. I love watching our mentor teachers work with our new teachers. I love watching teachers over the summer working on curriculum projects. And this summer I went along with some teachers to a literacy workshop to keep my skills fresh and to learn alongside them, and now can offer those services in classrooms. So I love the things that touch on the lives of the education part of it, the curriculum part. But the other part is equally exciting. How do you get balanced budgets? How do you negotiate contracts? How do you make sure that the buildings are maintained so that you never fall that far behind? So I think each part of it is equally important. And interestingly for me, with a very, very strong curriculum background, was the excitement that I felt around the other arenas as the superintendent, that each of these other pieces was equally exciting. I think the greatest piece of it all is that no 2 days ever look alike.
Well, your enthusiasm is really contagious. You were modest when you told this to me, but I want to bring up what I think is an honor that's being given to you, and it has a national implication. So would you like to share that with our viewers?
Sure. I was very touched and pleased that our Board of Education decided to send in an application for me for Superintendent of the Year, a national award given by the Superintendent's Council. I don't know how many people get nominated for this, but just the fact that they thought highly enough of my work and valued enough to do the paperwork, to send in a letter, which was just so flattering. Then they were very upfront with me and said that the lion's share of the homework fell to me. So much of July and August I was working on 5 essays that I had to turn in, and then letters of recommendation that I had to gather. But whatever comes of this, it was just flattering to get this far.
An honor being nominated.
Yeah, thank you for
I wish you
mentioning
well with this. It would be really
well,
wonderful.
You'll be on the top of the list. We could do another show on that.
We're going to have to wrap up right now, and we haven't talked about the web page, and web page presence is very important
Yes.
for lots of places, us as well. So would you like to talk about the web page a bit?
I would like to do that. In North Colony, we're very lean in many things, and we're very lean in our number of administrators that we have. There are only 3 of us in central office. We have no personnel director. We do all the personnel function for this 5,700 student school district. But over the years, the board and I have been talking about the need to update our web. So we've actually contracted with BOCES for the services of an individual to work with us 2 days a week to take care of our website. And we launched it around August 28th. We've been getting a lot of positive feedback, and we have some new features, so we'd like to encourage everybody to check it out. Some of the features that we're excited about is an alumni portion.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there are a lot of people who would like to take a look at that. They can register on the database, and they can also get reunion information right off of that. There's a new feature in athletics that we're excited about called Athletes of the Week. And lots of district forms and publications are online now on the website. And this hopefully will ultimately save us mailing costs and all of that. Some friendly driving directions to our different sites. And we'd like you to check out the academic portion of the website. We have information on every academic area at K-12. But the most important thing, going back to what the young lady at Napoli Bakery wanted to talk to me about, is that we do have a school closing and delay page, which I hope we never use, but the students and families will be checking that out, I'm sure, in the next few months.
Good. As you've been talking, we've been showing these particular items, but can you give us the web address?
Yes, it's www.northcolonie.org.
Okay.
And we hope that they will check us out. There is a feedback section there, and we're really looking carefully at the feedback in the first few months, because the web page, as you know, the web design is an art in process, and we hope to keep getting this to a better art state.
Well, Randy, thanks again for being with us today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and
My pleasure.
I know our viewers did as well. And let's make a point to have another one, in the not too distant future.
I'd look forward to
Okay.
that. Thank you
Thanks
very
again.
much.
And thank you for joining the Getting to Know You show. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.